So on today's show, what we're going to be doing is using the AEA Zeus in 72 cal to fire some saboted buckshot rounds. These are rounds that I'm testing out just to see how well they would work for a rifled buckshot. We'll also be testing these out later on with your standard round ball buckshot. But for today's show, we're going to be firing conical bullets out of these saboted buckshot rounds. To start out with here, the three over on your left are loaded with 4 90 grain 357 leads in each one of those. Right here, these two, they're loaded each with 3 220 grain 45 caliber leads. And this one here is loaded with 2 340 grain 45 caliber leads. And this one here, we've got a number 8 birdshot loaded in that just to play around with in the very end. So we'll be firing these all out at 50 yards today just to see how well they do. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get this test underway. We'll be firing each one of these through the Pro chronograph. You can see the deer silhouette out there at 50 yards, that one right there. I'm going to go ahead and walk down through a cardboard box with a target in front of it, just to kind of give us an idea of what kind of spread we can expect out there at 50 yards with each one of these conical buckshot rounds. So we're ready for our first test here. We're going to be shooting one of the sabots that have 4 of those 90 grain 357 leads in it. We've got the chronograph turned on, hopefully you can see that. I've got a camera down there on the target, so hopefully you can also see the impacts. Let's go ahead and load one of these up. See how well they do. Alright, here we go. First shot, 357 buckshot round through the Zeus. Wow! Holy cow, can you see the velocity there, folks? I want to show you this. 1,606 feet per second. That was 4 90 grain 357 lead stacked in there. That's what, 360 grains plus the sabot, traveling at 1,606 feet per second. That is just an incredible amount of energy. I can just guarantee that each one of those 357 caliber leads hit with more than enough force to do the job, especially at 50 yards, traveling at 1,600 feet per second with their muzzle velocity. That is just absolutely incredible. Let's go ahead and fire another one of these 357 sabots. Here we go, another one of them, just a different color material. Aim it quite a bit lower here this time just to see how well it does. Ooh, that one loaded much better. Alright, here we go, folks. Shot number 2. Aim a little lower, see if we can get something on the paper. Well, I'm hitting somewhere. In fact, I might have been shooting too low. Our second shot, we got 1,298 feet per second. That is still just an incredible velocity. So we're ready for our second test. I've refilled the rifle. This sabot has 3 220 grain 45 caliber leads in there. That's the typical lead that you see in a 45 ACP. Let's go ahead and cock back the rifle. We've got the chronograph turned on. Here we go, folks. Let's give this one a test, see how well it does. Here we go. Shot number 1 with the 3 rounds of 220 grain conical sabot. Well, we got 938 feet per second with that, and that would be 660 grains worth of lead. A little extra there for the sabot. Not too bad. Let's go ahead and load up another one of those and see how well they do. Alright, so here's our second shot. Just, once again, just a different kind of material that it's made of, so it has a different color to it. Alright, shot number 2 with the 45 cal. Wow, look at that. Alright, finally getting some shots on the paper there. It looks like we've got all of them in one ragged hole. You can kind of see the outline of those 2 shots right there. In fact, you can probably zoom in. You can see them just right there on the right side of the paper. That is all 3 of those 220 grain rounds, all in that hole right there. That would be absolutely devastating to anything you hit with that out at 50 yards. And if it's holding that nice and tight together out at 50 yards, you can imagine that it's still got a pretty dang good grouping out at 100. As well as here, guys, I don't know if you noticed that we've also got a much higher velocity on that second shot. We got 1,076 feet per second. I've refilled the air pressure on the rifle and we're ready for our third and final test here. This sabot holds 2 of these monster 340 grain 45 caliber leads. We've got 2 of these we're going to fire down on the target. Alright, let's go ahead and load up this monster round. There we go. All right, move the camera around just a little bit here. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take the first shot with these two 340 grain leads, see what kind of velocity we get. The next shot I'll zoom in for you on the target so you can see where it hits. Here we go, shot number 1. All right, so they hit side by side, nice tight group, and I'm hitting, oh, darn near where I was aiming, just over to the left a bit there. All right, so what do we get for a velocity? Oh, look at that, 1,126 feet per second with two 340 grain 45 caliber leads in there. So we've got 680 grains plus the sabot flying down range at over 1,100 feet per second. All right, so we're ready for our second shot of those twin 340 grain leads. For this one here, let's go ahead and move over to the target and we'll zoom in on that for you. So you can kind of get a good look at the impacts as they happen. So you can see that first sabot where it hit over on the right side of the paper. You can see that second shot I just took with the twin 340 grains down the lower left of the paper. So I'm going to try to bring that impact up a bit and see if we can't put it on the paper. Here we go, shot number 2 with the twin 340 sabot. Oh, look at that. I hope you can see that. Just above the bullseye, in the black above the red, and the two shots are literally just side by side out there at 50 yards. That means you've got a very, very accurate buckshot round with these sabots. Not only accurate, but obviously if it's holding together that tight out at 50, out at 100 yards, you're still going to be able to produce a really nice tight group. In fact, once I get some more of these set up and ready to go, I'll come out in another episode and we'll set up a target out at 100 yards and test out each one of these new saboted buckshot rounds from BBA. All right, guys, I want to zoom out here. I want to show you something. I don't know if you can see that. Look at the velocity we just got. 1,407 feet per second with two 340 grain 45 caliber leads. That's 680 grains plus the sabot weight, which is about 30 grains, traveling at 1,407 feet per second. With that kind of velocity, you can guarantee both of those 340 grain 45 caliber leads hit with more than enough force to get the job done. Let's go ahead and finish off the day shooting today with a specialty round. I've got only one of these. This is a birdshot round filled inside of one of those 45 caliber sabots. We're going to zoom in on the target for you and see if we can't get some of the impact on there with this birdshot round, if it holds together at all at that kind of a range. Okay, so here we go. First birdshot round. Well, it looked like the target may have moved a bit. I got 1,334 feet per second out of that. Maybe you can see that there. And I didn't refill the air pressure between those two shots that we just took with the saboted 45 caliber rounds. So that's even after taking those two shots. That birdshot round still generated a 1,334 foot per second velocity. Okay, so I'm walking up on the target. Just kind of want to give you an idea of what these impacts look like. You can see right here, that is all three of those 220 grain 45 caliber leads, all in that little tiny hole. You can see right here, that was that shot that we took for you zoomed in. Those are two 340 grain 45 caliber leads, all inside of basically just an elongated ragged hole. You can see down here basically that exact same pattern from the shot that we took before that with those same bullets. And if you notice, right there, right there, right there, 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 a couple here on the paper, right there, here, one there, some over here. I see it kind of all over the place here. That's the birdshot out at 50 yards. I've actually got 4 shots actually hit the paper out here at that range. It's a lot better than I was expecting out at this kind of a range. Typically when you fire a birdshot round through rifle barrels, the inertial force of the spin from the rifling just casts that shot all over the place. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Stay tuned. Until next time, this is BBA.